Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all having an awesome day. Let me know if audio's all good. I think we ended last stream hoping for, a fun stream, and I think that the market definitely presented itself the last week. So I'm excited to break down some thoughts, kind of like what we can expect for the next few months, because I think what happened here with Bitcoin was pretty significant, and there's a pretty good argument that there's definitely going to be an all-time high coming here soon, and I want to break down my thoughts on how maybe altcoins will react there. So, as usual, let me know if everything sounds good, and then we'll get started here. As usual, feel free to ask, any questions throughout the stream. I'll take breaks and, cover any questions you guys have. And then, considering altcoins finally woke up, I'll be glad to take some altcoin requests towards the end. So, save those more towards the end. I want to cover some things, and then we'll you know, cover any altcoins you guys want, because finally Bitcoin dominance, it sneezed a little bit, and we're seeing some type of revival on these altcoins that are, down 60, 70, 80%. Perfect timing, because the last week was the week I was like, Bitcoin dominance is just crazy. Like, this thing will not stop. And sure enough, it just woke us up and brought us down. So definitely been a fun week. Excited to see what happens here. So yeah, the first thing here, I guess, is I wanted to start off with this. I'm sure, some of you guys have probably joined a lot of my streams. You guys remember when we covered this, and I shared this chart here of looking at Bitcoin's price cycles based on the last halvings. And I just found this so interesting because, look, I have not updated this. I didn't have time to rerun it this morning. But this was basically, I think I did this like April, I don't know, like the end of April. So, it's probably like 3 weeks old here. And this was like right when we were at the bottom here. And if you look, just relatively speaking, like, it was just the perfect time for the bounce to come in. We could see, you know, based on all the last three cycles, I guess besides 2021, that one could kind of base out a little bit more. Like, look at 2017, perfect timing, and it's like we're already relatively speaking right there. And I just found this chart so interesting because the last few streams, I echoed the idea that, if the 4 year cycle is still intact, and if Bitcoin already topped, it would have been the shortest cycle yet. And I just didn't think that seemed right. It didn't feel right for everything that's happened for Bitcoin to have the shortest cycle yet. And I guess, what we've seen the last 2 weeks has proved that I think Bitcoin's got some more juice in it. And relatively speaking, if we normalize these across the last three cycles, we can expect higher prices, especially if we look at the last two, so 2018 and 2021. These perfectly coincide with October of this year. And here's another view of it that I'm sure you guys remember. This was the normalized cycles over the bottom. So this is like when the bottom was put in the last three cycles. And we see both of these topped at about 1,066 days after the low. So very interesting thing here because, like I said, I have not updated this. So we're probably like right here, relatively speaking, right at the point where, the last two cycles went on their last parabolic push. So it's definitely a very interesting thing. And last stream, I said that there's a good chance we could have a fun summer. And, granted, I guess the market doesn't just go absolutely berserk and Bitcoin runs to 120 or 130 over the next month. I think that this is probably going to be a good chance that, this market does go higher towards August, September, October, November, sometime into there. It's now just perfectly lining up even more. It was hard to say when we were, at 80K, but now with Bitcoin above 100K again, it's like, wow, this actually seems that much more real. So something I'll continue to watch. I'll probably post an update on this, but I definitely wanted to share it because I just found it interesting. When I was running these scripts here to make these charts, I was like, wow, like the last two cycles were perfectly, 1,066 days long. And I said, well, we got about 150 days until we even get to that point. So very interesting thing. And then the last thing here was the Bitcoin halving heat map. And the heat map is basically plotting a color based on the days until the halving. And this is something I'm sure you guys see me post a lot. And, basically we were at this point, like the 350-day point. That was April 8th when I posted this. So it was actually basically the bottom when I shared these charts. And, now relatively speaking, we still have about 150 days, relative to 2017. We're kind of like right here now. So it all just perfectly lines up for Bitcoin to go higher up until, September, October, November. So it's going to be a very interesting thing the next few months. I think that this was a hated rally. I could totally see, we saw it in the data. We shared the funding rates last week. We shared the premium. I posted that indicator because of how beautiful it was, and I'm sure we'll cover it here. But that premium indicator, it was basically saying this was a hated rally. People were getting blown out of their shorts. Spot was driving this up passively. People were off sides, and still to this day, I mean, the short squeezes we saw yesterday, I think we saw the biggest short liquidation day in almost 3 years or 4 years, something like that. And that just proves that people were off sides on this move. And that makes it even more hated. And still, as we speak right now, funding is not even that crazy. We still have a spot premium. So it's just a really interesting scenario. And that was kind of what I kept saying the last week is like, this is odd. Like, this is not normal. Usually when Bitcoin bounces this strong, we see a per premium come, and that says the market's overheated. But we don't have that piece of evidence yet. And it just tells me that this rally definitely still has more steam. Doesn't mean it's going to continue this weekend, or even next week. But I'm definitely under the impression that Bitcoin is very high probability to hit an all-time high now. And that's the next thing I want to share here. So, like I said, as usual, throw in any questions you guys have. Always love to answer your questions. Meme cycle theory at your own risk, guys, in October. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not putting a perfect date on October. I'm just saying, relatively speaking, that is the time that we should be looking for some type of top to come in, just based on the data we have. And I'll use the data until it fails us. So that's going to be, what my outlook is for the next few months. But yeah, so this right here is kind of my thesis as to why at this point, even when we regain the value area, the 90K value area, at that point, it was already a pretty high probability Bitcoin was going to continue higher. Because when you lose a 3-month range and then you regain the bottom of a range, that is not something that happens in a bearish structure. We think about the staircase module or the staircase concept. If you want to go up a staircase, you're not going to take a step back and then continue higher. Like, if you're going to go up a staircase, you're going to continue to go up, You might take one step back, but you're not going to continue to, like, backpedal. And that's the way that I look at Bitcoin here is if it wasn't going higher, I don't think we would have regained 90 to 93K. So this chart here was one of my favorite times back in 2021. So this was May 3rd, 2021. At the time, I'm sure none of you guys knew me back then. I actually was in private groups. I was a part of a group with like 300 to 400 members. I was doing live streams, everything. It's basically in paid groups. I didn't own it, but I was mainly like an admin, an analyst in that, and then another group. So I really would only post things on TradingView, and I would be on Twitter maybe sometimes like commenting, but I never posted stuff on Twitter. And at this time, this is something I used a lot back then, which was Fibonacci. And I'm sure you guys remember this. This is when we first hit 60K. And essentially, anytime a top was put in, in history, Bitcoin doesn't go above the golden ratio. And when this happened, I said it was a huge moment for Bitcoin and alts. In my group, I was sounding the alarm that, the bull market either was over or we were about to see a large correction. And that played out perfectly. I'll press play here. Bitcoin dropped 35% after that. I'm sure you guys remember that. And look, the whole time, it did not regain the 0.702, 0.618, 0.65. And like I said, I don't use Fibonacci a lot, but this was really a beautiful indicator, and I still pull it out of my toolbox every once in a while. And I was comparing it to the 2017 top. So the same concept happened here, where we did not go above the golden ratio. And of course, we know what happened after that. Bitcoin went down to 3K. So why this is interesting here is because if we go over to TradingView here, and if we go to a clean chart, we'll come back to this one. If we go to a clean chart here, see if Bitstamp is clean. Yeah, Bitstamp is clean. Essentially, anytime a cycle top is put in, if we pull out that golden ratio, watch, we're going to see exactly what I'm saying here. And this goes for any chart. This goes for any market, any chart. Like if you see here, sometimes it's the 0.786, but essentially price was never able to regain and hold above, the golden ratio or the 0.786. And of course, that right there caused the bear market. So we go to 2017, that was the comparison I had in that other post. Very similar concept. Like we could even pull it back from this to there, this to here, this to there. See how we got rejected off that golden ratio? That basically put in our top. Same thing basically here. If we pull this down to here, we can see rejection there, rejection there. That proves that continuation is not going to happen. And then this was the chart that I had that I posted on TradingView. Very similar concept. This one was perfect here. We hit it perfectly, the 0.702. And then same thing right here on the actual top was put in. Even though most coins did top back then, we can see if we zoom in here, price never regained that 0.786 golden ratio. It can peak above it, but it needs to obviously hold itself above that. So if we look at that now, that's why I'm under the impression now, like an all-time high is nearly booked for Bitcoin. When it happens, I'm not totally sure. The short term's more negotiable. But look, at this point, we are fully above the golden ratio and the 0.786. So as long as Bitcoin doesn't just crash right down to 90K over the next few days, this is going to be looked at as basically a break of the 78.6 retracement. And even if we get that pullback here to, potentially retest, at this point, we just did something that never happens at cycle tops. And that was kind of my same impression with, looking at the volume profile here, was if Bitcoin's top was in, it would have not regained the previous value area. So the previous value area we could see is the value area low here, and regaining that, going back and then rotating back up to the value area high. That's not something that happens in bearish structure. So this right here is my single most simplified reason as to why at this point, I think it's a 90% probability Bitcoin makes an all-time high. Whether that just peaks to 115, I don't know, 110, we're going to see when the time comes. But at this point, I think what happened the last 2 weeks is pretty exciting because in my eyes, this 100%, or I should say 90%, because nothing's ever guaranteed, but using all the data we have, Bitcoin is going to make an all-time high. And I think at this point, we can look back at all the data, all the tops. I just showed you, we don't regain that 0.786, let alone usually the golden ratio. Sometimes we'll peak up a little bit and then get rejected. But look, we are now well above that 78.6 retracement. And I think at this point, to me, it just guarantees, or 90% probability, Bitcoin will be making an all-time high. Whether it happens next week, we'll see. I guess I'm not too convinced on what happens here in the short term. I'll get a little bit more nitty and gritty, but essentially this is confirming, at least to me, that yes, we should be expecting an all-time high. And then if we go back to, these charts here, it's like, who knows how long that's going to happen? Well, we have until October before we're like, all right, this is going to be the longest cycle ever, so it's a very interesting thing. Very, very interesting thing. If you guys have any questions about that, let me know. Well, before we continue here on more short term and covering some other trades, let me go back to the Bitcoin USDT on OKX or KuCoin. Just wanted to share that, not to take victory laps, but just for education purposes. I made a post earlier that, a lot of the people that saw a lot of the people that, got bearish the last few months, they might have had some reasons to do so. But the entire time, Bitcoin structure stayed intact. And I think that was the important thing that, at least myself, I kept echoing each time you guys joined me for these live streams. I probably had this up like 3 live streams in a row, looking at this trend line, looking at the yearly rolling VWAP, looking at the halving VWAP, looking at the yellow line, which is the 50-week moving average, looking at this trend line right here, looking at the March high. There was like 7 pieces of confluence to tell us that this was a important area. And of course, I mean, look at the reaction off of it. Just absolutely just crazy strong reaction, almost 40% off of these levels. So I guess, the reason I bring this up is for education purposes. Like, throughout this time here, there was a lot of people that turned, or I shouldn't say up there, because it was good to turn bearish right here. I turned bearish here expecting this, and then throughout here I was like, okay, we'll figure out what happens. And then after this bounce, I was like, okay, we're expecting some bounce. But throughout this lower area, should I say, a lot of people turned very bearish. And I guess just for education purposes, guys, people do that to try to chase clout. But I will say, always just trade the chart. And if you're going into a historically important level, we looked at all the times. Look, I even have my drawing up here, probably from the last stream. Until we fully accept below these levels, there's no bear market. There's no structure shift. So I just want to echo that it's like at this point now too, it's like if we ever do break below this in the short term or in the next 6 months, then we're going to know, okay, the bear market is here, or at least the trend has shifted. So I just wanted to bring this up to show it's like, you couldn't ask for something more pitch perfect to have all of these pieces of confluence here and then to see this reaction off of here. I mean, it was truly just absolutely tremendous. So just wanted to bring that up for education purposes. Like, always just trade the chart, analyze the chart, and the chart the whole time said it was fine. All we were doing was back testing a breakout, and we know that's the foundation of analysis. That's the foundation of technical analysis. When you break something, usually retest it as support. That's all we did right there. So definitely was a sigh of relief to see this all play out as it did. The next thing here I want to show is basically the spot premium here. This spot premium here still is really, really heavy. And I'm sure you guys saw my post the last like week to 2 weeks. I first identified this when it started going more positive, and I said, this is bizarre. Right here is when that happened. Let's see. Right here's when that happened. See how this was getting more positive as price was going higher? That is very unusual. And then throughout this period here, I wasn't really convinced either way. I could see us go higher. I said it would make sense to see a 90K retest. Bulls just, they just basically had enough power to not even let that happen yet. So, we see now the spot premium is still really, really positive. I mean, look at how positive this is. And it even went negative on Binance yesterday, just briefly. And if we look here on a short time frame, it went negative very briefly. And it was funny how it was like the first time in so long it went negative. Look right here. And then look, Bitcoin chilled out for like 4 hours after. It was like so perfect. Like look at how perfect that is. It's flashed right at the Pico top. And what that showed is a bunch of shorts got liquidated. And when you get liquidated on a short, it pushes the perp price higher than the spot, because basically if you have a short position, you get liquidated, you have to buy that short position back. When a liquidation triggers, it's actually selling your short by buying back. So it causes all of this buy pressure to happen. And all of that buy pressure actually pushed perps about $20 higher than spot. And then once obviously we stabilized again, we could see that the spot premium came back. So I guess I'm still under the impression, guys, that this is another piece of evidence that says like Bitcoin, it's just, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that this rally's over until we see this gone. If we average it out again across the top 3 exchanges, we could just look at the past. That's what we'll do here. We'll just look at the past, guys. Look at the past here. So look at what happened when we lost the spot premium up here. Perfectly marked the area to start getting concerned. Look, it started right here. It ended right here. That was obviously the perfect time to exit, right? It was absolutely the perfect time to exit. Same thing here. Even though this wasn't the top, it told us when the market was overheated. We saw that. And then look, spot premium comes back right at the bottom. We go higher. Spot premium vanishes. That was the top. And then throughout the whole bear market, we had a spot premium, which makes sense because prices are going down. And then we see, look what happened here. We get a little bit of a perp premium come through here. And at this point, the market was still very premature, so it didn't cause too much of a pullback, but it just caused a slowdown, just caused us to grind. And then same thing right here. We saw the spot premium vanished. And at the end of the day, this right here did, resolve lower. We went to 38K, took out all these lows, so it worked there as well. This is the only other time, and I'm sure you guys remember me posting this, this was the only other time that we actually saw prices move higher with a spot premium getting more positive. So look, we could see right here, see how prices started moving higher and then continued to consolidate, then bam, started moving higher. This all happened with the spot premium getting more positive, right? It's exactly what's been happening the last, week to 2 weeks. Spot premium got more positive as we move higher. And I shared that last week that this was the only time I saw prices go higher with the spot premium getting more positive. And then of course we could see right when the spot premium vanished, especially when it got super negative right here, that was our time to say, okay, probably should start exiting our positions. And sure enough, for 6 months after that, we just went down and consolidated, right? Same thing right here. See, right when people got super excited, thought we were going to break out back in June, look what happened. Perfectly marked the top here. And of course, same thing as well right here. Right when the market started getting super overheated, we had a crazy perp premium, because right now I have it on the spot. I could switch it over to perp premium. We could see that we basically had a crazy perp premium come in. And sure enough, that was the time to exit. Because if we throw over like others, or, total 2, total 3, their highs were mainly put in right here. We could see where the highs were put in, and look what happened after that. Others in total 2, I mean, they dropped, 50, 60%. And that all, basically when this flashes, it says start exiting. Doesn't mean it's going to mark the top perfectly. You could see it. You could see prices go higher as we see a perp premium. But what it does tell you is, hey, watch out. There's going to be some type of prolonged correction once this trend is done, right? That's basically how we analyze this metric here. And then same thing right here. This marked the all-time high perfectly. Look at the all-time high here. Perfectly marked right there. That was when we saw the spot premium vanish. And then same thing right before we tanked. This was like absolutely perfect here. Right there, last time to exit before we dropped, what was this, 25, 30%, 25%. You could see we saw the spot premium vanish and then prices dumped. So now, bringing it all back, if I didn't lose you guys there, look where we're at now. We have none of the pieces of evidence that we've had the entire cycle of when tops are put in, or at least when tops are close. We can see, right here, slow down. Right here, slow down for many months. Right here, went lower. Right here, slow down, drop 33% or 32%. Right here, same thing. So, I hope that makes sense as to why at this point now, even though I've been talking about this since we hit 90K, I think I first posted this right here. At this point now, I'm like, okay, it probably makes sense that this trend is not going to stop like until we lose this spot premium. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I mean, I'm just using the data for the cycle. And basically what it tells you, if you guys are confused what it even means, what it means is that, the emotions get super euphoric. That's what it means, because when emotions get super euphoric, people are just longing like crazy. And when you start longing like crazy on perpetual markets, that's going to push the price of perps above spot. So that's basically where we're at. And that's why I keep saying that this is a hated rally, guys, because there's a lot of people that were not involved in this at all, or sold off their spot positions down here. So that's really what I'm going to be watching the next, week to 2 weeks. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't pull back and then go higher. So I'm not saying that just because we're seeing this means that we're going to go straight up like that. But what it does mean is, even if we get a pullback or chill off like this, as long as this premium stays, that tells me that this rally's got more juice in it, and it's a very simple thing that I'm using here that works super well. I mean, it really does work super well. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Let me see if you guys have any questions here. If we in September, November, there's a massive sell wall above us, that's a clear indication that should be a top. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously if Bitcoin's at 130, 120, 140, altcoins, patch up, go crazy. And I'm going to cover altcoins here soon. That's going to be a time to say, okay, this is probably like, let's at least probably exit, take some profits, see what happens. Just wanted to say thank you for amazing content you put out. Thanks for hopping by, Razmada. Do you look at things like price cycle top, Puel multiple, MVRZ score for confluence when it comes to Bitcoin tops? What's the most important looking at in your opinion? DNW, it's a good question. I just think that this cycle now is a lot different. And I think we've been proving that a while. This cycle is a lot different. And when you look at those MVRZ score, when you look at the Puel multiple, those don't take in account diminishing returns. And I think that that's probably the problem that we have with those metrics. So if I had to take a guess, unless Bitcoin just goes berserk and we see like the craziest pump since 2017, and this thing goes like 200K over the next few months, I don't believe that those are going to work, meaning that I don't think that those are going to flash the same signal that they have in the past, if that makes sense. So I'll view them maybe over the next week or two. I'll go back and look at all those metrics that I have. I haven't looked at them in a while kind of see, but I'm just under the impression those aren't going to give us the same signal that they have. Um, Kraken, Coinbase, Binance wallets moving Bitcoin hundreds more often again. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there. Maybe in the order books, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some crazy buying that we've seen over the last 2 weeks. Things we have not seen in many months, even years in some case. Now, I've been researching deep on this, and I want to talk to you. Do you have any recommendations of finding true MBO data in crypto? I'm looking for per order tracking. What exactly do you mean by MBO data? Do you primarily use tick data on all your softwares like Trading Light? How far have you been able to get with your order flow off tick data? That's a good question, and most platforms don't have tick data, and that's an unfortunate thing. And actually, before we even continue here, let me just share that. Unfortunately, Trading Light's been down for like a week and a half, guys, and I've been out of my flow. Because I'm sure you guys know the order books became a really big part of my analysis, and something happened with Trading Light. They were down for like a week. They got back up like 4 days ago, and there's all this like subscription problems. Like they renewed my subscription, but it says I don't have one, so I haven't been able to look at the order book skews. I haven't been able to really look at the order books. There's a few other options, but nothing really compares to Trading Light. And unfortunately, I've been out of my flow with that. So, it's been a bit of an unfortunate thing because I'm sure you guys remember when I shared the Bitcoin bid skew like a month ago. I don't even know what it looks like now because obviously prices are way higher. When I identified that bid skew turned positive was right here. And I don't think I've even been able to watch it since like right here was like the last time. I don't even know what it looks like, which is very unfortunate. Hopefully soon here. And then the other thing is, I've definitely been a little bit more not as active recently, especially in Telegram. I've just been working on a lot of things. So, crypto related, but I've been working on some projects in the background. Hopefully over the next month to 2 months to 3 months, I'll be able to share more with you guys. But that's why I've been, not as active. I mean, of course, the market woke up. So, I'm putting more attention towards it now. But when the market's been slow and calm, I've been working on some other things. So, to answer your question there too, BKN, I'm actually starting to capture my own tick data, specifically on XRP for right now, to try to find some, very deep analysis on that. So that's been where a lot of my attention has been. And, I'm excited to share some of my findings with you guys, but that's why I haven't been as active. Still will continue to post and update things, at least every day or two, but not as active as I have been just because my attention has been towards basically building out some really cool stuff. So hopefully I could share that with you guys at some point soon. What's up, Dom? Yeah, what's up, man? Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for hopping in. Market by order data, where you can see individual orders, create, modify, execute for each order, so we can look way deeper in order flow, detect fake will. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, that's funny, BCAN, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. That's basically the path that I'm down right now. I'm basically building out, very deep systems to capture tick level data and stuff like that. So, unfortunately, yeah, people don't have, for resource purposes, TradingView doesn't have tick, or they do have tick data, but it's not fully. It's probably, at least 1 second delayed, and you can't capture the trades, you can't use the data, and it's hard. So that's what a lot of my attention's been towards, guys, is doing exactly what he's asking, which is pretty funny, is basically capturing tick data and doing some very deep analysis that you wouldn't be able to do on any other platform, that you kind of need to capture it yourself. So yeah, let's see these last two questions here, then we'll move on. Would Powell cutting rates late into the summer be bullish for crypto? I know this is one of the more economical questions, but I'm curious if there's any historical data on this. So, that's really up for question because we're in this really weird area where, basically the market has been like hoping for rate cuts, but look, we just had a rate pause and look at what Bitcoin did. So, I mean, it's hard to say because look at what crypto's done with high rates. I mean, it's went from 15K to 100K. So it's hard to really say. I wish I could have a better answer, but it's hard to say. I guess the only thing I will say is, if we pull up SPY here, and oh wait, 1 second, and we just put the Fed funds rate on top of it. Actually, we could pull up NQ here, and we just put the Fed funds rate on top of it. To answer your question there very briefly, Technically speaking, when the rates get cut, it actually is bearish. At least short term. Like look, here was 2000. See when the rates started cutting down all the way. Look at the stock market tanked. Look at '08. Right when the rates got cut, we went a little bit higher, consolidated, but then right when they really started getting dropped, look, market crashed. Same thing right here, kind of. Rates started getting cut right before COVID. I know COVID was kind of a black swan, but like the market needed a correction. So look, rates get cut, market tanks. And then same thing right here. I mean, rates get cut, market's starting to tank. So it's hard to say. But what I will say is, once the rates are low and the bottom is in, then you have the mega bull run after. Same thing right here. It's like rates were low, bottom was in, mega bull run. So that's kind of exactly what we could be hoping for there. So I want to be able to see true footprint charts for these USDT perps. That's what I'm getting at, where the footprint data isn't aggregated from any orders, but is showing you every distinct order. That's a good question there, and I'm pretty sure Trading Light does. I don't think that they aggregate their tick data. So Trading Light is good, but I wouldn't even recommend using it now. I don't know what's happening to it. It's literally crumbling. I still can't even use it. So if you want to look at something else, look at Market Monkey. If you're in my Telegram, I posted that like last week. Market Monkey has amazing footprints, so you could start there. What is tick data? Tick data is basically just every single trade. So like if I go to a 1 second chart here on, if I go to a 1 second chart here on Bitcoin, see if it loads here. This is just looking at like what happened within that second. But like many of the times, these seconds here represent hundreds of orders. So you don't know what happened in between there. So that's basically what tick data is. It allows you to look at every single metric. So yeah, all right, guys. Let's what's next here? So we shared some, my idea on Bitcoin, my longer term on Bitcoin. I guess one thing here that I'll share, which is just super super cool here, is the Bitcoin US oil chart. I'm sure you guys remember me posting this, and sure enough, it just worked again. So impressive. I mean, truly, truly so impressive. See if we can go back to it here. I mean, truly, I'm just amazed by how well. And actually, this is the perfect last thing for me to share here on Bitcoin, on why my thesis is, this market, Bitcoin is going higher. And it's this is when I shared this chart here back in April, like it was probably April 20th, somewhere around there, basically said Bitcoin US oil looks really bullish. And I said the last time that happened was right here when the USD chart did not look that bullish. And of course, it preceded the breakout. We just saw the same thing here. Sure, you guys, if you guys follow me, very strongly, you guys saw me post about this. Bitcoin US oil making a new all-time high. And now Bitcoin is only, I don't have the comparison here I posted. Bitcoin now is only a few percent off all-time high. When I first shared this, Bitcoin was like 20% off all-time high. So this was just another perfect thing, another piece of evidence that added to my thesis that Bitcoin was still bullish. Was the Bitcoin US oil chart showed bullish. So now the cool thing is this made an all-time high. I looked back in history. There's only been one time that Bitcoin US oil made a new all-time high that in Bitcoin USD did not. So historically speaking, it's an 85% probability using this piece of data that Bitcoin USD will make an all-time high because Bitcoin US oil usually moves first. So super cool stuff, awesome stuff. Same thing happened right here. This is when Bitcoin hit 15K. Bitcoin US oil never made a new low. It diverges from USD and it shows the path before USD does. Really a powerful thing. It's super, super powerful. And then, yeah, the last thing here was Bitcoin VIX. So if we look at Bitcoin VIX here, this was another piece of evidence. Once again, just showing you guys all the tools in my toolbox that, helped me see the next few months or helped me see what the market would look like now. Back when everybody was calling for a recession, was this chart. I'm sure you guys remember this chart. Bitcoin VIX, I posted this in December and said Bitcoin just hit the same trend line that it topped every other cycle. Of course, Bitcoin dropped 33%. And then what happened? I shared this back probably right after April happened and said we just hit a 3,000, 3,500 day uptrend on Bitcoin VIX that triggered every other bull run. And look, Bitcoin's up 35% since then. So I hope you guys see it's just finding confluence in awesome things. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Very, very beautiful. So all right. we'll start covering all coins here, and then we'll take a look at the order books. Let's see what else you guys had. I've actually used Market Monkey. Awesome. Yeah, it's a cool platform that's starting to definitely grow. I'm excited to see where it goes to. Just listen to Tony the Bull, Tony the Bear. Yeah, Tony the Bear. Um, Remember, alts caught a bid, which is nice, but we're still way off the highs from December, January. Thankful for the leaf, but true profit will take time. Absolutely, 100% DNW. You're absolutely right, and that's why I've been under the impression like, hey, well, let's wait till alts show some type of sign like they have now. Now we could start paying attention to them because if we're going higher, the alts are going much higher. Alts. That doesn't mean alts are going to make all-time highs, but alts will definitely see another 50, 100% moves on a lot of them. Um, Gold was big last month. Retail might have been trapped up there buying the high. Smart money could have been rotated to Bitcoin near lows. Do you see potential reversal after Bitcoin tops? That's a great point there, and I think that's exactly what happened. I'm very positive that when gold was going crazy, there was money getting rotating out of gold into Bitcoin when it was at 75 to 85K. And that's why we've seen this passive bid in this hated rally. So without a doubt. But all right, guys. So now let's take a look at XRP, take a look at Ethereum, then we'll take a look at Sol, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I know I'm getting a little bit off track here, but I'm sure you guys enjoy all the little different perspectives. So XRP here, not too much to say because, XRP's it's been pretty weak. Definitely been pretty weak. But at the same time, I'm sure you guys remember my stream last week. I explained why I thought it was being weak. And I basically said, if we just go scroll through, look at Ethereum. Look at XRP. You could see the difference in the last 4 months. Even Sol. Look at how far Sol's down, and then look at XRP. You see how XRP's held all these lows? If we go scroll through at all these different charts, none of these held their lows. Look, lower lows. BNB, lower lows. Doge, crazy lower lows. Even Cardano, lower lows. TRX even had lower lows. AVAX got absolutely decimated. Link got decimated. XLM got decimated. Even SUI, even though it bounced crazy, SUI got decimated. So then we go back to XRP, and look, it's just been going sideways. So you get that's basically, that is why XRP's been weak. It's fine, guys, because guess what? It's still way higher than almost any other coin, relatively speaking. I mean, if Ethereum was where XRP is, it'd be at $3,500. Same thing with Sol. Ethereum, if Sol's where XRP is, it would be at $200. Doge. If Doge was still where XRP is, relatively speaking, it'd be at 35 cents. So that's why XRP, in my opinion, is still taking its time. Completely fine. Nothing unusual here for me. And look, we had the perfect retest here. We retested this trend. I posted it. I said, hey, this structure is still fine. As long as $2 is holding, we're fine. And sure enough, the last 2 days, we got that nice push off of here. And if I put not sure what happened here with the VWAP suite, put the VWAPs back on here, we could see basically, we just need to hold this quarterly VWAP. If we hold this quarterly VWAP, and if we go back and put a volume profile back up here, you can see the point of control is right here. So this is the highest volume area over the last, 4 or 5 months. This is the area perfectly coinciding with our all-time high VWAP. All XRP needs to do is get above this, and then the skies are clear, guys. The skies are clear. That's really all I have to say about XRP. I mean, really, there's not much more to say. As long as it's now at this point, we want to see 220 hold. At this point, I don't think we want to see, no matter what, we can get a pullback like this, take more time in here, completely fine. Even maybe go a little bit lower, hold monthly VWAP. But at this point, all XRP needs to do is really just stabilize back above the point of control, so this orange line, and then above this all-time high VWAP. And I think I have a bunch of VWAPs on this chart. Yeah. So look at all these old VWAPs we had up here. Look at them all now. They're all like perfectly look at that. Look at how look at how perfect that was. Like they're getting so tight here between 240 and 243. Perfectly hit that. We got a rejection right now, which is fine. But yeah, that's really the final boss here. I still agree with this. Price becomes free. Might as well move that over right there. If XRP, when XRP gets above 250, 240, 250 and is holding, I think that we have clear skies. We really have clear skies. We can push right back to 275, $3, start seeing what happens there. But that's really it. I could totally see this chart moving fast once we're above these levels. So for now, still patience, guys. We saw the rejection that happened right there. We just want to see quarterly VWAP continue to hold. And as long as that continues to hold, and even so, we could lose quarterly VWAP, but we want to see 220 range continue to hold. Anything above 250, it's going to get fun. So that's really all I have to say about XRP. If you guys have more questions, let me know, but I'm going to keep it simple with that because that's really all you got to look at. People overcomplicate things. I'm not in the business of overcomplicating. You know, I think that's the simple way to look at things. When will you personally be looking for new longs and alts? What else do you want to see besides a shift in spot premium? Well, you know, as of right now, I think Bitcoin dominance is still not at the point where like, okay, this thing's done. You know, I mean, it's if you zoom out, like it's like, okay, you know, not much has happened here, but actually I need to update this post that I made because it played out perfectly. Others.d posted this last week and I said, we want to see Bitcoin. Forgot about this one. I basically said, we want to see Bitcoin. You know, this is really busy now, but basically said, we want to see Bitcoin, you know, continue to push high because what happens anytime we moved higher, it was basically from, this is too dirty for me to even show you guys right now. I'll have to post this later on. I got to re-clean this up so you can kind of see what I mean. But essentially what I was sharing was each time an impulse occurred, or I could actually easily show you guys here with just Bitcoin. Each time an impulse occurred, we had Bitcoin dominance go higher. So we could see first impulse, Bitcoin dominance pushed up. Bitcoin dominance went higher, Bitcoin went up. Bitcoin dominance went higher, Bitcoin went up. And then after that is when alts, you know, would catch up. And that's basically what we just saw right here. So to answer your question there, we're at the point now where many of these altcoins do look pretty good. And I'd just be looking for continuation on them. It's at the point where you can grab like the meat in the middle of these altcoins. And that's basically how I'll be playing those over the next few weeks. So yeah, and then what else do you want to see besides a shift in the spot premium? You know, that's more of a day-to-day question as for what I see on Bitcoin, but essentially, you know, the spot premium is going to be the main thing that says, okay, you know, this rally is getting a little bit overheated. So until we see that, I think that the market can continue to squeeze higher. Updated thoughts on Ondo. Can you look at? Yeah, just give me a second here. I gotta cover just a few more alts, then we'll take any ticket requests. You're honestly one of the best technical analysis traders out there. Appreciate that, man. I know standard. You're one of the most reliable supporters that I have, so much appreciated. XRP is strong sentiment. Yeah, it's definitely a strong sentiment. Sentiment is definitely still strong on XRP, so we'll see what happens here. But yeah, just a final up on XRP, guys. That's really all I'm looking at here. XRP just needs to get above these 240, 250, and then really the sky is clear. Until then, we could still probably just try to, like, you know, grind ourselves out, you know, create more of a base. And then once we get above that, things will get very exciting. So, of course, I'll be updating as usual. Ethereum here. We'll cover Ethereum because it finally woke up, even though it still is like really far from being bullish structure. It totally woke up. Let's see, index. So this is basically where Ethereum needs to regain. And I posted this probably, was it yesterday, the day before, on Ethereum needs to regain these VWAPs. So, you know, it hit my downside target. I remember on stream with you guys a few months ago, I said if Ethereum loses this level, it's looking at 1500 to 1700. Basically, we went a little bit lower, but that was our stabilization. And, you know, we bounced, what, 50% off of that. Pretty crazy bounce so far. But really with Ethereum, there's still so much to go before we're like, okay, this is a guaranteed bull trend. Because still, technically speaking, it's under all of its bearish trends. And really, this VWAP here, these VWAPs are very important. They go off of all of the previous all-time high. So really, this is an area where this is like a big area for Ethereum. You know, we could see some chilling out happen here. That was a crazy pump, just a ridiculous pump that we saw here on Ethereum. And it makes sense because the order books were completely empty. Just completely empty. So for Ethereum here, you know, I guess it's at a hard point to really give a strong view. But really, it's like, you know, we could see where we're at now. We're trying to like regain this important level here with these VWAPs. So that's really what I'm looking at here for Ethereum. Ethereum could regain, hold above these VWAPs like 2300, 2400, and then we hold above like 24, 25. Ethereum's next target is 3000. So that's really all we can look at for Ethereum. You know, that's really all there is to it for Ethereum. And it's cool because right when Ethereum got a little bit of a bounce, look, altcoins, finally woke up after 5 months of getting absolutely decimated. I mean, truly just decimated. So, all right, last thing here is Sol on the large caps. Sol was a great trade, even though I've held Sol for 4 years. I've held a bag throughout all of this. All of this I held a bag. Added some more down to 120. Just shaved some off. Perfect 40% move here. I posted this on my Telegram and on Twitter. Basically had this line drawn and said I was looking for like 170, and that just played out absolutely perfect. So now at this point, we're at the yearly rolling VWAP. So similar to Ethereum, like this is an important level here for Sol. So this is at the point where it's like I don't know, the best way for me to put it is this is a good reaction. We're back in our value area that we've been in for a while. But for Sol to really, really see some like, okay, open up the door to 200s, we need to regain the yearly rolling VWAP. So I'm sure you guys have seen me use these now for months. These VWAPs are so beautiful. I mean, look at how accurate that rejection was so far. I mean, these things work like a charm. Look at how accurate it was when we regained the monthly rolling VWAP. See this? See how we regained the monthly rolling VWAP? Bam, moved higher. Regained the quarterly, went crazy. Just awesome, awesome stuff here. So that's my thought on Sol. I mean, Sol at this point now, I could totally see us chill out a little bit more. If Bitcoin doesn't push higher, or if we break this monthly rolling or this yearly rolling VWAP, we'll be looking at like 200 to like 220. So that's really it for the large caps. It's really, really dependent on Bitcoin here. And I guess I'm just not convinced on short term yet. That's really where I'm at. Like long term, midterm, like we've nailed these moves together. But at this point now, I don't know. I could see this definitely go both ways once again. Like this was a big, big move. And I'm definitely not ruling out like a retest of 100K, something like that. So we'll see. I'll just be honest with you guys. I'm not convinced on the short term. I don't know. I don't have a clear view of what's going to happen the next few days. I think we need to let more price action develop for me to just, see more from right here. So all right, yeah, that's a good main overview. Now let's take a look at the order books before I take some ticker requests. So this is what I've been using for order books. Kiyotaki, they're okay. Nothing like Trading Light, unfortunately. It just doesn't feel the same. It's just hard to, not as smooth to use, but it gives me some type of idea. So yeah, with Bitcoin here, we could see this is an aggregated order book, so pretty cool actually. We could see, all the bids down there. You guys remember us talking about those bids. Those bids were our bottom. Thank you, Coinbase, for displaying those months in advance. They literally gave us the bottom up here. These bids were down here for a while. And then now, we look, these order books aren't that thick. They really, really are. I mean, we had a little bit. We got a 500 Bitcoin aggregated, pop up right here at about 105. So that's a big wall. But it's like, that's it, guys. Like, if Bitcoin, like say we get a little bit of a correction here, or we test this out here over the next few days, Bitcoin gets above 105K. I mean, this thing could run right to 110. So, consensus on order books, they're not that bearish. Like these order books are still in the bull's favor. If we saw multiple layers of yellow or like green, I'd be a little bit more concerned, but we just see one layer right here and the next layer is at 110. So that right there would give us our all-time high. So simple view here on the order books. On the upside, the order books are not that stacked. Bulls can totally push this over the next week or two, depending on how deep the pullback becomes here. And then as for XRP, they don't have Coinbase on here, unfortunately. So that's an unfortunate thing. I don't, because Coinbase is really the Mac Daddy of them all for XRP. But if you look here, not much on Binance, not much at all. What is this, like a few million, 2 million? Not much at all, 260. I mean, above that, 280. Look, I mean, these order books are clean, guys. They really are clean. I mean, if we move it like that to see just the yellow, those order books are clean. I mean, you could see a stacked order book right here. See, that's a stacked order book. That's a stacked ask side of the book. Look here. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. So once again, supporting the idea that XRP totally could see another push like that. And My guess is XRP is going to do one of those things where the market's silent and all of a sudden it just goes crazy. It'll be one of those times where it's like it doesn't like to participate when the rest of the market's pumping. That's something I've learned for so long, guys. Like it's so weird how XRP moves. Like it basically waits for like this little perfect moment. It's like a tiger, like spying on its prey, or like a cheetah, and like right when it finds that like opportunity, it just goes for it. So if we see a move to 250, 260, 270, watch. I'm probably pretty convinced that'll be when like the market's like steady, or like a few altcoins are moving. So we'll see what happens with that. And then as for Ethereum here, just to show you guys basically why. I'm not sure what happened to this order book actually. Well, second, let's see if this can load here. Well, basically the Ethereum order book was just empty. Let's see what happens here. So this is the unfortunate thing with using some other software. We could see that it's just not working right now. Very, very unfortunate. One second here. Let's see if we can get this to load here. Yeah, I'm not totally sure. It's a good program, but it's very slow and laggy sometimes. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't even want to load up our order books. Well, I guess I could just tell you with explaining that essentially these order books here. Oh, we almost had it there. But essentially these order books were just completely empty, and that's why Ethereum pushed up. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So we can see, you see how stacked the buy side of the book was the last 2 months, 3 months. See how stacked that was with the yellow, and then look at this point, just air. That's why Ethereum moves so fast. And this is why, guys, I always tell everybody who follows me, if you want the Mac Daddy of analysis, learn how to read the order books. They are by far the most powerful tool out there. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody's got their own opinion, and I'm fine. I'll respect that. But I've tested out almost every indicator in the book. I've ran 20 different algorithms. I've made 50 different trading view scripts. I've tested out almost every indicator out there. The order books are the probably the most useful piece of analysis you can use in this market. So take that for what it is. But yeah, essentially that's why Ethereum moved higher. And we have some orders pop up here, but like nothing crazy that we saw like up here. So not much to gauge from the Ethereum order books. Essentially, I guess the main takeaway from all of this is these are bullish. These are still in favor of the bulls. These aren't like super overly like imbalanced to the bear side. So that's really my main point here. So all right, guys. Well, I think I covered a lot here. About an hour. Let's see what else we had here. So the order books. Went over the order books. I guess if you guys just want to see the flows to see, not much really I can take from them. Because not much is really can get drawn from them, but essentially over the last like I don't know 3 weeks, this move has really been from passive spot buyers. So I know some people in my comments are like, well, the CBD is going down, how can you say that's from spot buying? This is why. Because if there's market spot selling and prices going higher with a spot premium, what does that mean? That means that there's limit buyers that keep walking up bids to support price, right? So, on easy order flow tools, to most people, they'll look at this and say spot selling. But what you need to do is look at the whole picture. When you see we have a premium, and when you see we have a premium with spot selling, market selling, what that means is that there's passive buyers placing bids here that essentially keep walking up the price. So that's the important thing here. We haven't had much aggressive spot buying. We've had passive spot buying, which is even more powerful. Passive buyers are very powerful because what that means is instead of pressing market order, you put limit order. And all of this selling, price going higher, that means that there's passive buyers supporting that. So that gives you guys a little idea of essentially how this market's got pushed higher with a spot premium. Really, really tremendous stuff. And then same thing here with XRP, actually. See, XRP's move higher. Look, the flows look like they're down, right? What that means is that there's passive buyers that have been holding up and absorbing all of that sell pressure. And they just keep walking up price. So they just keep moving their bids higher. That's basically how price moves higher without us seeing it directly in the flows. If that makes sense to everybody. And then here with Ethereum, we saw some aggressive buying. I mean, no questions asked. There was some aggressive buying that happened here on Ethereum. Almost every single venue is pushing up crazy, crazy prices. So, it's a very interesting thing to see here on Ethereum. We'll see if this continues. I mean, that's by far the strongest spot buying we've seen. And funny enough, I'm sure you guys remember when I kept saying that Coinbase was buying the whole ride down, which was weird, and Bybit. Well, looks like they were right. They started accumulating at 2,700 for whatever reason, market buying. And then look, bam. See both of these were buying off. We're buying as price was selling off, and then selling off here, selling off here. That's just a pretty interesting dynamic of when you look at the flows to say, who's doing what. So, all right, guys. Well, see if you guys had any other questions, and then throw in any ticker requests here. I think I covered a lot. Feel free to ask any questions. I know I bounce off and share so many different things here. I always try to stay on track, but there's just so many different ideas here. Can you give us your VWAP settings? Sure. Yeah, so the VWAP settings here, as of recently, I'm really only using the rolling. The anchored are good. You want to like reset, but the rolling are my favorite. So I just turn off the anchored for now. I do a 1 month, a 3 month, and a 12 month. And then if I'm going a short term, I'll do a daily, a weekly, and a monthly. And then have my VWAP labels here, and then my bands are usually just 0.1 to 0.2. So those are my settings there. Appreciate the knowledge. Thanks for joining. You talk about how you read and use depth of market data. Example, I remember your story about XRP liquidation event you sniped in February and using the live order book to time the reversal. So yeah, so essentially it's hard for me to show you without trading light because that's where it happened, but basically that was a very unique scenario. When XRP dropped and the whole market tanked that time right here, this wick, essentially what happened is the order books were empty right here. So price started moving really fast. And I used the order books or the depth of market, or whatever you want to call it, to allow me to snipe this 196 low here. I think I got in at 193 or 196. This happened within like a second, so it was hard for me to get executed down there. But essentially, I did that because there was this massive stack of orders. So there was nothing here. It was empty. And then as I watched this live just keep doing this, like every second it would drop like 5 cents. And then bam, we hit these, and then I saw that reaction, and then we stabilized for like a second or two. And that was my trigger to get in. Because essentially, we moved down so fast, we finally hit bid liquidity, and then that provided our slingshot. So that's the simplest way I could put that. And then that's just a rare event. It's a very rare event. But that's how I also called and picked the bottom perfectly. I got filled here. I'm sure you guys remember. I got filled here, I got filled here, and I got filled here. I got into every single one of these moves all on Bitcoin at the low there at 75K, all because of the order book, because I identified where orders were sitting, and I watched this live and saw, we would go fast and then hit orders, stabilize, and then that's your trigger to go higher. So, been seeing some technical analysts on crypto Twitter talk about CRV. What's your opinion on the structure? Yeah, we'll take a look there. Take a look here at CRV. Most of these coins, guys, I don't look at any of these, at least recently, because there's been no reason to. So you guys are gonna get a fresh view of my analysis with these things. So first thing that bounces right off is we're above all important VWAPs. So that's an important thing. When price holds above all of these, the monthly, the quarterly, and the yearly, that is definitely a bullish thing. So that's like you guys do your own analysis. It's the first thing you should look at. Like EMAs are great, but like VWAPs are even better. So you see like prices above here, but like look at what happened when we broke the yearly. CRV went nuts, right? Look what happened when we lost the yearly. You lost the quarterly. CRV went into a consolidation phase. Look what happened when we regained, retested. CRV now is probably up 20, 30%, 37% since we regained that. So this to me though, on the short term, this looks like a perfect 3-drive pattern, which I don't really like to mess with those, because those are really like 75% accuracy. That this will at least chill out. So the way to negate these is you got to break this top trend. I'm sure some of you guys have seen that. Like essentially, if we do that and this trend continues to look like that, that's when things go nuts. So when you break a top trend, that's where things go parabolic. But as of right now, I'm just going to be cautious on CRV. I don't know if you're asking me short term or long term, but like this is my short term view. Is we have a 3-drive pattern and we lost that previous high. So that's deviating the high, swing failure pattern, deviation, stop grab. As of right now, this, to me looks like it could, rotate a little bit lower. And to negate that, you need to regain this and then push higher to that next trend line. So that's my short-term idea. And then, as for a more long-term idea, or more high time frame view, I think it looks good. I totally think it looks good. We flipped obviously a perfect downtrend line there. I think it really looks good. And then this is where I would use my VRVP to see like where's the volume profile sitting. Let's see if this loads here. And we could see like, throughout the, actually let's go to CRV USDT so we can get a little bit better of some volume metrics here. But essentially we could see like, what I'll look for is like, are we stuck in a big volume area? And look, we're trying to get out of that right now. So that's essentially one thing. It's like, you could rotate higher if you're not stuck inside these high volume nodes, should we call them. So, my high time frame view on CRV is it doesn't look bad. I just think in the short term, this definitely could, do something like that. So short term, but long term, I think that this doesn't look bad. Of course, granted, the market does continue higher. And this is also where, guys, even though you probably never see me use Fibonacci, they're really good to be doing this type of stuff. So just like I shared at the start of the stream with, you guys are still watching that were here in the beginning. You guys saw me give my thesis as to why Bitcoin has really high probability it's going higher. It was really based on a 2021 idea that I first used, showing the golden ratio. So what it shows here is like CRV gets above 90 cents mainly. Like at that point, it's a very high guarantee it will make a new high. So those are my thoughts on CRV. Updated thoughts on Ondo? Yeah, we'll take a look at Ondo here. Thanks everybody for joining as well. As usual, hit the like button. Looks like we only got 30 likes in here. We got 60 people. Definitely a little less. It seems like engagement's been down a lot, unfortunately. I don't know if something's wrong with Twitter, but engagement's been down, and that tells me that this rally is hated. Like, we lost a lot of people. I saw a post the other day, and it was hilarious. It was like we lost more people in here than we lost during FTX or 2018, and I think it's true. It just seems like it's really quiet out there compared to like February, unfortunately. But I'm sure people will come back around once we see crazy green candles. So Ondo, here, perfect concept proving my yearly rolling VWAP once again, guys. Look at how beautiful that is. You see, we held the yearly rolling VWAP the whole time here. So structure stayed bullish. We went higher, of course. Right when we lost the quarterly, look at this, lost the quarterly, bam, tanked. Got rejected off the monthly, lost the yearly, tanked another probably 25-30%. Let's see how far that was. 30% lower. And then look. I mean, wow, Ondo's like a textbook example of these VWAPs, guys. This is actually incredible how accurate this was. Look, losing monthly, go to quarterly. Can't hold above monthly, lose quarterly, go to yearly. Get rejected off monthly, lose yearly, go back down, rejected off monthly, break monthly, retest, go right to yearly. Retest again, go right to yearly, trying to regain quarterly. That probably sounded so funny, but like truly, that shows how accurate these things are, and they act so much different than just normal moving averages. So my view here is pretty simple on Ondo. Like, I think Ondo's probably still a great coin. I still hold Ondo. I've been holding Ondo just because I got in. I think I got in down here. I think it was like 45 or 30 cents that I got into it. So I'm still in deep profit with it. I just had a longer term view with it. And basically, Ondo becomes free above the yearly rolling VWAP. I don't want to overcomplicate things here, guys. This is where Ondo would get free. So on to my point of like, let's look at alts when they break structure. We're almost there. Like you think, oh, well, you already missed this. I don't care. Personally, that's not the business that I'm in. I'm not in the business of picking alts because people tried to do that throughout every one of these bottoms and they just got taken out. I didn't lose any money in alts the last few months. I didn't try to buy bottoms and get ran over. Because now I know that if we regain the yearly, this thing's going to push probably to 150. So hope that answers your question on Ondo. All we got to do is regain this yearly, and this thing's probably going to rotate much higher. Look at Cubic. Yeah. So, all right, guys, you guys throw in any last things, any last ticker requests that you guys have? I'll be glad to cover those. Any last questions, throw them in. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, Cubic here. Weird chart. I mean, it, tanked 85%. And really a similar view. I mean, look, we regained the quarterly and the monthly for the first time in a while. See what happened when we regained all of these? We went crazy. And very similar concept here. I guess I don't really like this wick, unless we get a a reclaim like that very quickly, and then I'd be looking for a trade right here, at least to push to yearly, and then if we regain yearly, we'll probably go right back up to this supply area right there. So it doesn't look too bad. I just think in the short term, I'm not interested in the short term. I want to see it redo this, can set some alerts there. So that's my quick overview on Cubic. IOTA, TRX. Yeah, we'll cover those quickly, and then I'll cover the last few that you guys had here. IOTA, very interesting chart here as well. Still just proves the power of the VWAPs here, guys. Look at this. Regain, retest, go right to quarterly, retest monthly again, trying to go to yearly. So if I put a volume profile up here, look, we're right at the point of control. So you see this volume cliff here. This is why I love market profile. So you guys see these volume profiles here? So that right there shows a wall, right? That's a big wall. That wall is where prices go free above it, right? So we're at that rejection area right now. Same thing right here. So very simple on IOTA. IOTA regains 25 cents. I look for a rotation back up to like 35 cents. It's as simple as it is. But as of right now, we kind of probably still have a, probably divergence there, a little rejection. So this is probably somewhere we could stall out a bit. And we try to push again. That's the move I'd be looking for. TRX is the most bizarre chart in all of crypto, guys. It is just absolutely crazy. I posted this actually like last week or 2 weeks ago, and I said TRX, it moves before. I posted this trend line, and I said it was breaking out, and sure enough, that little tiny move literally showed that the market was going to have some type of revival. So with TRX here, it's just hard to say what's going to happen with this, to be honest, because you don't have any history. Like you have this zone right here. Like that's all you really have. Like, this is all you have for historical purposes. And you can see that the volume profile is getting thin. So I guess the same concept here with IOTA in this. You break 26, 27 cents, this thing probably pushes back to about 30. So that's my thought here on TRX is we could see some cooling off here. We see another push higher. I'm looking for a move probably back to 30, which is this next area right there. Oh. All right. Would you also look at API 3? Yeah. API 3 was a bizarre coin. Absolutely bizarre coin. I remember trading that. Had some algorithms on that actually like last summer. It's a very good coin. Look, I have some of my zones are still on there. Let's see here. This is a very weak coin from original. My first view on API 3 is pretty weak. So yeah, API 3 for me, at least BKN. This has got some ways to go for it to be interesting to me. Because look at how thick volume is here. It's really got to grind itself up here and then regain that yearly for me to be interesting, to be honest. So I'm not going to say much more about it. It's got a lot of ways to go, and I'm not interested in the grind up here. I'm interested in the big move that happens after that. So ADA, very hated coin, but I have a good amount. Your mutual flowers are still keeping an eye on it. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's been a strong coin. I mean, we can't deny it's been a strong coin. Let's move out my areas there. You can see how perfect those rejections are on this, and look where we're at right now. This is bullish, more bullish than most, because look, we're above all our VWAPs. So we're above all the VWAPs here. And yeah, this is actually a dirty chart. We take off this just to see a cleaner view of it. Hopefully get a better idea of what's happening here. That's why I still love trend lines. Trend lines are just so perfect. But yeah, so it's I guess it's kind of hard to say here on Cardano, like because it has so much has so it's so busy that it doesn't have like that perfect breakout area, if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think what needs to happen is we need to rotate higher from our previous value area. So we draw a volume profile here. We could see the value area lows right there. So what I really think needs to happen is same concept here. Like we need to see that first, and then this is where the big move would happen. So to be honest, I'm not interested in Cardano until it's back above like 88 cents. Um, Above 88 cents, that's when we could see a rotation right back to like 1 to 120. So I'll be keeping eyes, and this is where I set alerts, guys. I could set alerts here, put one right above this high to start paying attention, and then go from there. Thanks for sharing your TA. Learn a lot. Thanks, Edbert. I appreciate that. Gold question from up. Gold question from up top. Tell please. What was your gold question? 1 second here. Maybe can you repeat your gold question? I'm not sure if I could see that there. Oh, gold was big last month. Retail might have been trapped buying the highs. Smart money. Well, yeah, no, I said definitely. Smart money rotated into Bitcoin at the lows, without a doubt. Do you see a potential reversal after Bitcoin tops rotation to gold? I don't think so, to be honest. No, I don't believe so. I don't think that money will rotate back into gold personally. I think that the trade was buy gold, rotate into Bitcoin, then go into cash or like stocks or something eventually after that. To be honest with you, I don't see a ping pong between the both. Um, if that makes sense. Thanks for sharing your TA. Oh, I saw that one. Thank you guys. ADA, we'll covered ADA there. H bar, yeah, we'll take a look at H bar. And then I'll cover a few more here, guys. I usually don't do ticker requests, but like I said, the market's starting to move here. So now there's some evidence here. And if you guys question my approach here, I hope it makes sense. Let me just take a second and explain it. Is something like, let's share AVAX here. So like people get interested, look, so like this whole time last summer, people were trying to buy these bottoms here. And I'm always under the impression, you guys probably heard me on spaces, I'm like, I don't get involved in altcoins until they show structure breaks, right? So then people get involved here. No, still nothing, right? This is where I get involved. I get involved right here. Because I don't care what happens right here, right? I don't want to sit through 3 months of chop, even to say I picked the bottom. I don't care. All I care about is getting in and getting out quick, catching those really big, strong moves that happen in altcoins. And that's kind of what I'm saying we're at right now. We're probably like somewhere in here, meaning that these big moves could be coming here soon. And I don't care to pick these bottoms because I'm not going to sit. I want to be in and out of altcoins. I don't want to sit through them and be a bag holder. So I hope that makes sense, guys. That's my approach with altcoins, and it works really well. It's not picking the exact bottom. Sometimes I'll do that. I mean, you saw me do that on Bitcoin. I'll do that on XRP. I'll do that on my, the main top 4 coins I trade. But as for catching alts, they're just the most of the time they're going down or side. So all I want to do is I want to be involved right here in this meat. So that's all we're looking for here, guys. It's just that meat. That's really all we're looking for. So, sorry, let me cover these last few things here. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Looks like we got about an hour and 20 minutes here on the stream. So H bar. Well, H bar looks like it held our zone that we had, which was great to see. Had this perfect zone here back in 2021. Held very well. And yeah, so the next level here, we put our VWAPs back on. Oh wow, look, we're at a complete intersection of VWAPs. And yeah, this is actually a very, see, these are the charts that I like, guys. These are clean charts right here. So what we see happening here with H bar is we're right at the high volume node. We could see, well, it's not as high as it was, but high volume node there, pretty high volume node. And, look at where we're at. Perfectly trading right in between all of these VWAPs right here. Like, look at how much it respects these. That's why these are just, they just continue to amaze me how powerful they really are. So with H bar here, this is turning out to be a really good trade right here, guys. I'll give you a trade idea here. So here with H bar, we draw a top trend here, and we see that this right here now is a deviation as of now. And what I'll do is I'll set an alert. So I'll set an alert right here. And basically, let's see, I'm not sure what's happening there. Sometimes it happens. We'll have to set one after. But basically, you send an alert there, and at this point, you could let it do this if it wants. You could let it go sideways if it wants. Right when it gets back above this, right there, and it's holding, whether it's a strong candle right to the wick or it's holding, that's the entry for me, because what you did is you deviated a high and then reclaimed, and then we look for a push all the way to 24 cents. Why? Because that's a liquidity void. We can see anytime we move through there, we usually do it fast. So if you go from here, anytime you lose this, you go to there, lose this, go to there. Anytime you break this, you go to that, lose this, go to there. Same thing will happen. So that is a good trade for H-bar. We'll look for like 25 cents. And yeah, that'd probably be the first target zone. And then you'd have to like reevaluate at that point. So H-bar looks good. It's actually like right on the point of potentially seeing some type of breakout here in the short term. So pretty good chart here on H-bar. I actually like this chart. This is a nice chart. Any thoughts on Matic? Oh man, I haven't looked at Matic in a while. Isn't it pull now? Matic is just got destroyed. So yeah, this thing got absolutely destroyed, decimated. Absolutely decimated here. So it actually looks very similar to H-bar. So if we look here, like, look, this is why I love the volume profile here, guys, because look, you see this volume profile here, you see this area right here. See how all of a sudden you got high volume and then it just goes to nothing? Look at where that perfectly coincides with our rejection area, with our support zone right here, with our resistance zone, I mean. So what that means, and you even kind of have, I don't, head and shoulders are memes, but you even kind of have a head and shoulders right there, right? And what happens is you break this neckline, you push right to the yearly rolling VWAP. So now I'm looking at some of these alts, guys. They are on the edge of where finally I'm playing what I play, and it's not caring about catching these bottoms, because guess what? Everybody on CT thought they caught the bottom here. Everyone on CT thought they caught the bottom here. Caught the bottom here. Caught the bottom here. I wasn't involved in any of those bottoms. I don't care. I'll be involved in that big move right here. And then if we get up here and then another one happens, I'll be involved in that big move right there. So that's how I play the market. That's how you save yourself from being a bag holder. You want to secure the bag, not hold the bag. Because people that hold the bag get destroyed. At least on the altcoins, So yeah, Matic's not a bad coin here, actually. Similar concept. We break this high, this wick high here, I'll look for a move right to 38 cents. So I hope that answers your question there with that. LTC. Okay, LTC. Is there any last ones you guys got? LTC? Oh, okay, awesome. Awesome. LTC here. Let's take a look at LTC. Unfortunately, LTC. So this was actually one of the old fractals I made. Made an old fractal right there that actually played out perfect. Funny enough, it played out perfect. Just didn't go as high as possible, as it was in the past. Let's go back to a clean chart here, though. Or actually, we want volume. Let's go to Binance Perp chart here and see what we got going on here. So let's take off the VWAPs on a higher time frame. So, this is a weird charm, to be honest. This is at this point up here, it looked really good. I thought it was going to break out up there. But yeah, at this point, LTC, I don't know. It gives me mixed vibes, to be honest. Because what you need to see is you need to see, number one, the quarterly regain. So we can see we're still under the quarterly there. And, we're trying to regain the yearly, which is good. But, if you look at the quarterly here, that really like coincides with like that thick volume area. You see the high volume node right here. So we're at that point. So I'm not interested in any longs in this area. I'm interested in regaining the quarterly and then pushing right back to like 125. That's the trade I'm looking at here. But as for now, I could see this base back out, go sideways some more. I could just set alerts on the quarterly and then watch that move happen like that. So I hope that makes sense. Also, would you mind restating the difference in your general trading timeframes and how you strategize for long term? That's probably. Oh wait, I didn't see your first question there. Oh, and Algorand. My bad, guys. I'm moving too fast here. So we'll do Algorand real quick, and then we'll go on from there. Wait, did I look at Algorand? I don't think I did. We have this perfect zone that was already drawn here. It kind of looks like H-bar, but this is the one that's a lot more weaker. So honestly, I don't want to do business until we're probably back above the early. So back above the early, then I look for a push back to like 45 cents. But at the same time, if you're in the business of looking for a shorter term trade, then yes, we probably can print one here, just to the quarterly, or yeah, sorry, to the early rolling VWAP into this high volume node here. So we could see, I mean, this is, I could see this base back out like this, and then if it comes back to this high, get involved in that move like that. So yeah. But all right, thanks for taking the time. Would you say you no longer use moving averages because of VWAPs? I would say that, yes. Moving averages, literally a VWAP is a moving average, but it uses volume. So it's that much better. And the reason I don't like moving averages, guys, and that's, I have my own indicator here, Moving Average Explorer. Thousands of people, I think, use it and added it. But it's a cool thing. I sometimes use it. I know some people that use it. You can create bands. You can create, you could turn it into a color ribbon, which is cool. You turn it back on here, you guys can see, like, it's useful. Like, don't get me wrong, it's useful. Like right now we could even, draw some conclusions from it. See how it's right at that point of basically the point it was at, like right there, right before it broke out. See that band, see right when it breaks out, the whole trend starts. Similar thing right here. But to answer your question, I like VWAPs better because VWAPs are not subjective. VWAPs don't change on the time frame you're using. So if I look at like the moving average, every time frame I'm going to, I'm getting different moving average lengths. So to me, that's just too subjective. I could find the 17 moving average on the 3 hour, or I could find the 72 moving average on the 7 hour. Like, you could find the craziest, weirdest stuff. But VWAPs are pretty steady. Like, if I change the time frame, they don't really change. Their calculations get less sensitive because it's using the bars, but like VWAPs stay about the same. Like, you see the yearly right here is at 28 cents. If I go to a 7 hour, it's at about the exact same point, maybe just a little bit higher. So that's why I like VWAPs, if that makes sense. Would you mind restating the difference in your general trading timeframes? Yeah, so I go in waves. I go in waves of scalping a lot when the market's slow, and then I go in waves of swing trading. I mean, I'm definitely the best at swing trading and higher time frame views. I'm definitely by far the best at that, but it just depends on the environment we're in. Like this environment here, you don't want to scalp. You want to hold trades because things are going ballistic and you're not going to outperform the market scalping. You're going to outperform the market holding. Throughout these like consolidation phases, you want to scalp, but we're getting to the point where you're going to want to hold trades. So I just kind of just go back and forth. You're a real gem, Dom. Appreciate all you do. Appreciate that. Thanks for joining in. GM Mooncake, do you see Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin in the coming days? Oh, man. What a good question there. I mean, Ethereum dominance hit the level that I've joked about for, I made that post. I made that post and I didn't show you guys what it was. And then I shared, I was like, oh, that's Ethereum dominance inverse. So I inversed it and I said, basically right here, I'm like, this thing's going parabolic. It's got its eyes on the previous zone. We hit that and look what happened since. So as for continuing to outperform, I don't know. I mean, that was a ridiculous. It took back 2% of the market in the last 2 days. So that's crazy. As for, how much more, I mean, it's hard to analyze this chart, Mooncake. It really is. So I guess I can't really give you the best answer. Like, I really don't even know what to think about this chart. Now it's like what are we even looking at? Just try something interesting. Could you put an anchored VWAP from each cycle's top and bottoms, make a different color for tops and bottoms? You can see that the bottoms for each cycle is between those two VWAPs. I don't know if this is valid, but it's interesting. Absolutely. Yeah. That's something I used a lot, without a doubt. I'm sure you guys saw like some of my videos about the halving VWAP. If you place a VWAP at the previous cycle halving, the next cycle's low never goes below. And that's why I say Bitcoin should never go below 40K. Because the 2021 cycle's halving VWAP is at 40K right now, and we never lose that. So yeah, it's a very valid thing. Anchored VWAPs are awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Pepe Ethereum. All right, yeah, I'll do Pepe Ethereum and then Sui, and then we'll wrap it up here, guys. So Pepe. Well, let's look at Pepe Ethereum. Wow. Pepe Ethereum's been really moving itself. It's pretty interesting, actually. Yeah, Pepe's been outperforming Ethereum like crazy. That's pretty cool. But But yeah, I mean, as for thoughts on this, unfortunately, I can't get volume information on here. We can't get VWAPs. We can't get volume information on here. So I don't have those tactics when you use a custom pairing. But yeah, I mean, this doesn't look bad. You know, this definitely does not look bad. I guess the one thing we can use is a fib, because the fibs are good in these type of times. And you see we're at the golden ratio. Really what I want to see is we want to regain or consolidate in here, then we look for a push to the highs. That's really all I could say there on Pepe Ethereum. It doesn't look bad though, without a doubt. Sui? Yeah, we'll take a look at Sui, then we'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining, guys. I appreciate it, as usual. So yeah, Sui's doing that thing like it did last wave up, which is cool because you put Bitcoin over here, watch. See how Sui went crazy? Or actually, let's not use Bitcoin. Let's use total 2. Oh shoot. Let's use total 2 here. So look. You see when total 2 was still going sideways? See the pink's total 2, handles are Sui. See how Sui already went nuts? It was already above its high when total 2 was still doing nothing. And then look, total 2 regained and caught up. That's a similar thing that's happening, and that already happened. Sui has shown the strength. Look, you see how Sui pumped a bunch here, but total 2 didn't do much, and then total 2 caught up? So what I want to see here on Sui is we want to see this thing push to highs, because if this thing pushes to highs, this is another perfect indicator that we're going to, you know, new highs across the board, across the actual board, and that's going to be the area that you want to be, you know, positioned in these altcoins for those 40-50% moves. So really all I'm looking at here on Sui, I mean, it's well above its VWAPs. Let's put an anchor on the all-time high. It's probably well above that as well. Yep, well above that, held that as support. The last thing to do here really is regain this golden ratio. You regain this golden ratio, you push to 0.786, bam. You know, that right there, and especially if altcoins are still not moving, then you guys can pin me on that one. If Sui does this and altcoins are still like doing nothing, that's your signal that altcoins are going to pump. Whether it takes a week, 2 weeks, we saw it last time, we'll see it again. That's my thought on Sui. It needs to regain this, you know, golden ratio here, and then we see a nice push higher. So, all right, guys, we'll finish off with Crow here, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for sticking around. Fun hour and a half. Definitely a fun hour and a half. So let's see what happened with Crow. Not sure what even happened here with Crow. Must have covered on another stream here. Let's see. Let's get a clean chart. I mean, this thing looks, this thing got decimated. Wow. This thing absolutely got decimated. But when it pumps, it goes nuts. Wow. And that's truly, truly something. So let's go back. So the early is so far away. The early is very, very far away, which I don't necessarily like, because I like to be involved in trades above the early if they're like a swing trade. So really, it's not the cleanest chart here on Crow, to be honest with you. Like, we could draw this back to this here, and then, you know, you really, there's no structure break until we get above 12 cents. So that's the unfortunate thing here. And that's where, like, people will disagree with me, but, like, I won't be involved in the move here. I'll be involved in the move above that. So I hope that makes sense. So Crow, it's just got a lot of ways to go. So many more altcoins look good to me, like where they're at the point where we can see the strong moves. Who knows? Crow could just pull one of those pushes right to that. But still, I'd want to be involved above that, because it's just so far away from having a full structure break. You know, it needs to at least put in a new higher high, which would be basically that right there. So yeah, not much more to say about Crow, to be honest, but all right, guys. Well, I think that covers it. We shared a lot, shared an awesome amount. I think I covered a lot. Shared how we got here. Hopefully, I helped some of you guys the last few months. Like, you know, it's been a hard time, but I stuck to my guns down here. I was telling people to bid, or at least I was telling you guys I was bidding. You know, that played out perfect. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks, but overall, my thesis over the last few months has played out pretty well. I haven't done too much trading, and just recently I've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So hopefully I'll be able to share that with you guys, pretty soon here. I've been working on some really cool stuff. We could put it that way. Some really, really cool stuff. Really deep, deep, deep analysis, like, taken to the next level for analysis, and nothing even like still sit here and I could still do this normal TA, but the TA that I'm moving towards isn't TA. It's, fully like quant level type, analysis and type of approaches to the market. So yeah, I'm sure I'll share that with you guys soon. But overall, I'm happy we're here. This kind of is what we expected. If you guys watched my last few streams, this was it. You definitely didn't see a bearish tone out of me the last 2 months. And yeah, I guess we'll just continue to go from here. And I'll continue to update. I think we're at a point where things are going to get interesting. And if you go back and if you missed the beginning of the stream, watch what I said about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's new high is about 90% probability now. So we just got to see when that happens. It's really all there is to it. And, we go back to these two things here. I posted these right at the Pico bottom to keep people, not so emotional. And as of right now, they're continuing to play out perfect. We could see a fun summer here, guys. This is like, we're shaping up to like a 2017 type summer. Like, look, see this purple line here? This is a 2017 type summer here, guys. 2017 summer, if you guys were around there, that was a fun time. I'm not sure we'll see the full-blown moves, but we could see something similar. So it's going to be a fun time. And I hope that you guys get value from these streams. Definitely takes a lot of attention and energy for me to share these around. Continue to do it to hope people get educated and, maybe save their bags, or, be positioned properly. So yeah, that's really all for me. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. See if there's any last questions. You wait till levels be retested before getting involved? Not always. No, not always. It just depends on the strength of when you break that level. You break that level and bulls are just fully in control, you probably won't get a retest. You get a clean retest and you're starting to round out, that's like one of the best setups that you'll ever get. Appreciate the time here as always. Spicy summer. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining, O'Beef. Appreciate the insights. Yeah, thanks a lot. I hope you guys have learned some things. That's why I do this, without a doubt. BKN, thanks for joining and asking questions. Love it, man. Fugazi, favorite streams. David, thanks for sharing. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys all. And yeah, we'll be back at it soon. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Talk soon.